I would do a breaking news alert, but I'm not that lame. Instead, I'm going to refer to a release that was kindly tweeted by friend of the show, Letterman Row beat writer Austin Ward, and it reads, "The Ohio State Department of Athletics has paused all voluntary workouts on campus following the results of its most recent COVID-19 testing of student athletes. 7 teams' workouts are affected by this pause: men's and women's basketball, field hockey, football, men's and women's soccer, and women's volleyball. The university is not sharing cumulative COVID-19 information publicly, as it could lead to the identification of specific individuals and compromise their medical privacy." Never mind that most everybody else has been releasing that information, and we haven't actually contributed that to or attributed that to any athlete whatsoever. Feels a little shady. If a student athlete tests positive for COVID-19, he or she will self-isolate for at least 14 days and receive daily checkups from the Department of Athletics medical staff. Student athletes living alone will isolate in their residence. If they have roommates, they will self-isolate in a designated room on campus. The health and safety of our student athletes is always our top priority. The Ohio State has paused voluntary workouts. That's as real as it gets. They don't do football any harder than anybody else in the world does football hard, right? This is one of the blue bloods of college football, and if there was anybody with a competitive incentive to play college football in 2020, it is Ohio State, who is one of perhaps 3 teams with a real considerable opportunity to run the table and win a national championship going 15-0, not unlike LSU last year or Clemson the year before. They are that stacked. And if they aren't allowed to play college football this season, they probably lose Justin Fields' draft-eligible year, as the NFL draft is not going to hold up for the sake of spring college football. It's going to go ahead and say, hey, look, we're going to take Justin Fields with the number 2, number 3 overall pick, or number 1 overall pick, and we're going to go from there. Same thing with guys that are slated to be first-round selections on the Ohio State squad. Among them, defensive back Shaun Wade, wide receiver Chris Olave. Maybe Master T gets healthy, and there's something to say about that. To say nothing of the offensive line and the defensive line, and all of the dudes that you really wanted to get some experience on this stacked Ohio State squad, but also guys that have real opportunities to raise their draft profile, like Baron Browning or Tuff Orland. And the list continues to go on. So them pausing in an effort to try to save college football and their college football season is even more bad news on top of bad news. We've had 37 positive cases from UNC today. Stanford decided to drop 11 programs permanently, like 11 athletic programs. Among them, these are programs that have gifted 20 national championships and 27 medals, including wrestling, rowing, women's volleyball, squash, sailing, things they're very proud of, and things that help lead them to a 25th consecutive NCAA director's cut for their overall athletic and academic excellence. At a school with a $26.5 billion deficit, they are trying to cut their losses and save $70 million this year by cutting those programs. Add to this, Army has come out and said, look, we have made no decisions about our futures here, but we do need to say we are disappointed that we won't be able to play Princeton on October 10th, as Princeton is a part of the Ivy League, which is made up of 8 schools, and they have all decided we're not going to play football until the spring. And because Army is structured in a way different way, it is a West Point academy for officers, and it takes 47 months for them to get where they're going. They don't have time to put off playing football or put off playing any sport because they are rigorously structured. So it would feel like they would just miss an entire season of football so that they can continue to do what they would normally do in the spring, which would suck, again, not just because they don't get to play Princeton, which is already gone, but because they are slated to welcome Oklahoma for the return trip of a home and home at Michie Stadium on September 26th. But Oklahoma is having its own problems, as it was added to a list of 19 states that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has said you cannot enter the state without quarantining for 14 days because of the rate of cases that have spiked in places like Oklahoma, a place where we still don't have a mask mandate, where Governor has not put in a mask mandate, where my mayor, G.T. Bynum, is hemming and hawing about whether or not there's going to be a mask mandate, even as his public health official, Dr. Bruce Dart, has said, hey, if we want football, we got to start wearing masks right now. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, right now. We don't have time. And the last time that GT dropped a hammer, yeah, people were pissed, but it also worked. We had a very low number of COVID-19 cases in March and April, and then people took to the streets. And in taking to the streets, we had more people spread the virus. But we didn't have spikes, right? People taking to the streets is not the same as a sanctioned event. And then we had a sanctioned event, which was the Trump rally at the BOK Center. One of these is people taking to the streets. One of these is a rally that was sanctioned by the government and where the United States president came here to do his re-election deal. Now, whether or not you agree with Democrat or Republican is not the point. The point is, even if you wanted to say both sides, whatever sides, people contributed to the spread of the virus in Tulsa, you cannot say that one was more important than the other. Though I will say the city prioritized the rally in Tulsa in a way that, frankly, Bruce Dart has said, look, we probably shouldn't have had the rally, and we probably should have stepped back from this because the spike in COVID-19 cases was coming. Nothing about the politics of this, right? Just the COVID-19 cases, right? And then we had news earlier today where the CDC is going to change its guidelines based on what the president told them to do, which seems beyond his purview, but that's getting into politics in a way that is not actually going to be apolitical and help this conversation. What I did want to contribute to this conversation was it ain't up to them anymore, right? It's up to you and me. We haven't been able to depend on them since March. If we're going to stop this, it's going to be because you and I wear cloth masks and you and I socially distance and you and I act like adults in the room, because the adults in the room, quite frankly, cannot be trusted with making these good, sound decisions. And while I am frustrated by that, I am right where you are, which is to say I'm frustrated enough to yell about it, but I am not so obtuse and stupid as to not want to wear my cloth mask out in public settings when I do go out in public settings, which is very seldom now. Yeah, man, I go to work, I go home, I say hi to my girlfriend, I make these videos, I write my features and my stories. I need you to help me with this. I need you to help each other with this. Golly, it's been a crappy day for sports news. Doses.